Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday night. Welcome to Now That's Disney's Disney Night Live. It's Saturday. It's 8 p.m. Eastern. We're joined here by Jim and Valerie, and we've got Mike and Becky with us. Mike and Becky, can you hear us? I think they're frozen, and they're having some issues. I could see you guys a little bit.
Can you hear us?
There you go. I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you, Mom.
We're having a few prop issues here.
Mike decided to
They're freezing up a little bit, so let them work on their technical issues, and we will get things rolling here. It is Saturday again. Now that's Disney's Disney Night Live, and we come to you live every Saturday. Please share us out. We're all over social media. Don't forget to check us out everywhere that we are. We've got some folks in the chat saying hi. Hello to Linda. We've got Katie here. Hello. We've got Lily Johns and Linda. So I want to say hi to everybody that's here.
Hi, everyone.
I've shared us out to a bunch of places, and I hope more people tune in. We'll get Mike and Becky back soon. We have a great show for you tonight. We've got a topic that is near and dear to our hearts. We've done an episode like this a couple years ago, but it's time to revisit visiting Disney with special needs and or disabilities. We all have some personal experience with that, traveling to Disney and, again, with special needs or disabilities. And Mike and Becky will be back in, and they can share their experience as well. So I want to pull up our friends over at D Magic World, because I want to talk about our sponsor, D Magic World, and then get right into the topic. And if you guys don't know already, D Magic World is a 24/7 streaming Disney music station. They are our sponsor. They are there all day and all night. Whenever you need them, they're playing Disney music. And I see you in the corner there, Kim. They have two stations. They have a movie station, and they have a park station. So you can tune into one or the other. You could hear whichever one you wanna hear. I was listening to them earlier tonight while I was ironing my clothes. I was in the basement here ironing, and I got to hear some of the funny jokes in the wacky radio station that is played at Toontown in Disneyland, which was very funny because the jokes are very similar to Jungle Cruise, and also caught a little bit of Tokyo Disneyland's Main Street song in their intro, which was great as well, which I love about the station, because they don't just play the American park music, they play the music from all over the Disney parks. So please tune in, tell them we said hello, tell them we sent you. Check them out as well on Sundays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. because that's when they play Now That's Disney's Disney Night Live, and you can hear recaps of our show. And I see Mike and Becky are tuning back in here, so let's bring them up and get rid of this one. There we go. Right, now they're back. Now they're out. Now they're back. Are you guys here?
Yeah.
All right, there you are. There you are. Okay, we want to see a little bit more of Becky, not that Mike that we don't like. There you, perfect.
She's prettier anyway.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, I'm not going to judge. I think you're both very attractive people, and I'm glad that you're here with us. So we've got Mike and Becky. We've got Jim and Valerie. We've got, of course, my lovely wife, Kim. I'm David. We did our sponsor for D Magic World intro, and we're excited to get the ball rolling on tonight's topic. I'm going to pretend I'm Skipper Jay tonight, and I'm gonna be bringing up the comments, and I'm gonna help navigate the show. But I'm gonna leave it up to everybody here to kind of talk about the topic, which is visiting Disney with special needs and or disabilities. Again, Mike and Becky, you're just getting on right now, and we've all got experience with this. So and Kim and I have been fortunate enough to spend time at Disney World with both Jim and Valerie, their family, and Mike and Becky, and their son Rowan. And we had a great time with both you guys, and it's always fun to see other families who are kind of dealing with the same thing, and which is different than the norm, because you appreciate it, just very, I was very taken back, both experiences, just watching, how both of you guys are with your families at Disney World, and just the level of care that goes into it, so we want to get this information out to our viewers and our listeners. And I'm going to let Kim, maybe you want to kind of navigate and let everybody talk about experiences. And
when we get into the planning aspect of it and the DAS pass aspect of it, then David, I'm going to let you take over, because you are our family Disney planner. It is not me. A lot of families think it's the woman. In our family, it is not me. It is David. But yeah, so I just wanted to start off the night with saying that we did get to spend time in Disney with both of these lovely families and their beautiful children. And I want to just start off with just how our stories, how going to Disney with a special needs child or family member has affected you. Like, is that part of why you became a big Disney person? Is that a reason why you it because of the way that Disney handles it? I know that for us, it was a big reason. A lot of people don't know this, but a big reason why we started Now This Disney, when David and I met and we first got married, I had been to Disney a couple times as a kid. David did not, but he went as a young adult. And he was really into Disney. And I remember saying to him, like, I'm going to admit this, and I don't want any, no harsh judging, but I was like, I don't know. I haven't been to Disney since I was little, and I had a great time there when I was little, but I'm not that obsessed. I was not that obsessed with Disney or loved. I didn't really want to go to Disney. Yeah. And then we had our son, and he was diagnosed with autism. And finally, when he was around 4, I was like, all right, let's go. But I was a little bit nervous because we had a plane ride to do, and our son is on the autism spectrum. And when he was younger, it was a lot harder to deal with than he is now. He's also come a long way, but I was like, is he going to enjoy it like other kids? Are we going to go there and spend all this money and be disappointed? And that sounds silly, but everyone, and this is why this show is not just for people with special needs children. It's for everybody with kids, because we all want our kids to have a good time in Disney. We all put on a ton of pressure, especially if it's your first trip. We feel a lot of pressure, the money that's spent, and we want them to react the way that we think they should react, right? We want them to hug Mickey Mouse. We want them to run to the castle. And we had a lot of that, but we also had a lot of help from Disney. And after our first trip, even though it was our first trip navigating everything, there were so many magical moments and ways that Disney does special needs better than anyone. I don't care.
Yeah, in our experience.
I mean, I just really feel that they do such a great job at true inclusion, training of their staff, that's what kind of hooked us in. And I said, yeah, we're doing this next year, because it wasn't just a vacation for our son. It allowed us a vacation as well. And it had something for all of us. So I just want to start off our conversation with,
it's a good question to ask. Yeah.
Was there a defining moment for you guys, or the way that Disney did things that kind of clenched you in and you said, wow, this is amazing? I will start with on my first story, and I've said this before, but it's been a while. Our first trip, we had a Ohana breakfast, and at the time our son was 4, and he was really, really rambunctious. He was a mover. He was always going, and it was very hard to keep Colton focused on anything, which made kids' birthday parties really difficult. A lot of times, and I'm going to be very honest here, a lot of times I would go to birthday parties or things that other kids were enjoying and be disappointed or upset leaving. I'm upset because maybe they were all supposed to go through an obstacle course, just say, and he wouldn't follow along. He was doing his own thing, running around, you know, doing the autism thing, doing what he wanted to do, which it took me 10 years to figure out that's okay. But at the time it could be upsetting. So we were in Disney and we went to Ohana breakfast, and Lilo and Stitch came out, and Mickey and Minnie, and Colton had his first hug with Stitch, and he really enjoyed it. And then he had his first hug with Mickey, and you could see the emotion in his face, and he really got it. But then this song Hawaiian Roller Coaster came on. Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride, there's no place I'd rather be. I'm going to sing it a little bit, but and back then Ohana had a little parade for all the children. They would follow, I think it was Pluto in the front, and they would give all the kids little maracas, and they would I had to follow in the parade around the whole restaurant, that cute little song. And Colton wanted to join the parade, and I remember thinking, like, he's not going to do it because in the past he didn't follow. You know, he didn't follow. He did his own thing, and that he did it. He got on that line and he got his maracas, and he was like jumping around the restaurant with my phone, hopping over tables to get pictures and videos, because I just remember that was such a big deal that he got it and he was doing it, and like we still have it on video to this day. And that was one of our biggest moments, like with Disney, just that like he did, you know, what the other kids were doing, and he loved it and he enjoyed it. And so, you know, that's one of our stories. So what about you guys? I'm going to go to Becky and Mike. Did you have any magical moments with Rowan in Disney?
I don't know that we had any specific moment that was like an aha moment for him. Our first like big family trip, Rowan was 8, I think he was. And it was before he was actually diagnosed with autism. We knew he had ADHD. He had some other issues. He had severe anxiety though, and depression at the time. And I know it sounds funny to say like an 8-year-old has depression, but like he was definitely not a happy child at moments. And he was actually at a really bad time in his life that first year. And I remember thinking to myself, like, we all walked out of that trip just knowing that it was like the best trip we've ever had as a family. Mm-hmm. And that was, I guess, the defining moment, I guess, if I had to pinpoint one, just knowing that him being as unhappy and unfortunately not diagnosed, because we didn't really know how to deal with what we were seeing at the time, because we didn't know what it was. So, you know, him just being so happy and loving every minute of it, and just us as a family enjoying it that much, that was it for me. Like it sucked me in.
We still judge every trip that we go on after that against that first one. So
yeah.
I don't know that it'll ever measure up, you know, because it's one of those things that it's like
it doesn't have to, because
right.
Yeah, that's the buy-in, right? So that's the one that got you. Mm-hmm. And for some reason it works, right? A lot of things don't work prior to that, and it worked, and he was happy, and that's all that really matters. I mean, we were there in April with you guys. He was so nice and just so happy and so outgoing, and so much fun to spend time with him. I mean, the second day we saw you guys, Kim and I got big hugs, you know, from Rowan. So yeah, we love it. Colton is too. So yeah.
I love that though. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jim and Valerie, do you guys have any magic moments, or what hooked you? Or?
So a quick background on Dan, our oldest son. So Dan was born almost catastrophically prematurely. So
he was 3 months premature. Wow. So he was severely underbaked.
Yeah. And so the first 2 years of his life were mostly doctor's appointments
Yeah.
and stress and worry and,
Yeah.
neurological issues and, would he walk? Would he ever walk? Would he talk? Would he feed
Right.
himself? I mean,
Yeah.
that bad. We
Yeah,
really,
no.
we really didn't know.
So
Right.
what was it, his 2-year developmental evaluation, he was fully a year behind.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
so the first 2 years of his life, I was literally just trying to figure out how to survive it and how to help him as best I could.
Yeah. And so, as a result of his extreme prematurity and, the trauma of the birth, the brain injury resulted in cerebral palsy, which was ultimately the diagnosis. And I mean, he's going to be 20 in this month. And
Right.
we're still figuring out what that means. So what's visible to you is physical, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff too.
Right. I mean, his brain was injured at birth because he was severely underbaked.
And so
the CP, the obvious stuff is, physical and real obvious, but there's other stuff because it goes right along with brain injury.
Right.
So back to the Disney thing. So he was not quite 3.
He was not quite 3.
And
our first trip was can we do this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's actually leave the house.
Right.
And go somewhere.
Let me just interject really quickly. And you guys have 3 other kids, correct?
Two
other
They have 3 total.
The twins, right?
Yeah. So his younger siblings. So this is before they were born. Dan was not quite 3. And we went to Animal Kingdom Lodge. It was how do we take a vacation like this? We don't even know. But let's take him somewhere and see what happens. And he was barely talking. He was almost 3, mostly what we would call cocktail speech. He had phrases and things like that. And so we went and we did Disney. We stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And we got through that trip and it was like, okay, we can handle this. The following year, he was a little bit older.
Right.
And we went and we stayed at Poly. And that was when everything clicked.
Right. Yeah.
So we stayed at Poly. He had made enough progress where he was ambling along with leg braces and he could interact. And it was an Ohana breakfast.
Oh my God.
It was,
yeah.
I still have the videos. But it was like he lit up and, the characters came to him because he wasn't getting around and he was yelling for Mickey, and then he got up in his little leg braces and he stumbled around in the parade and
we
thought, yeah, we'll make it.
Yeah.
Right.
And you saw the joy and look at that. Look, I can't believe that we have the same Ohana breakfast thing though.
Yeah, seriously.
To this day, when I hear Hawaiian roller coaster ride, I'm like,
yeah, that song hits a different way. Seeing your child who doesn't fit into a lot of situations fit in somewhere. It really was just the whole thing with Disney for us. It was as if nothing in the exterior world mattered because everything there was okay. It's really hard to explain, but that's just how it felt,
Yeah. And a lot of it was just, it was easier to get him around when he was smaller. So, and that as he got bigger, it got harder.
Mm-hmm.
When he was that little, we could throw him on my shoulder and we're pushing him around. But there were things even then that made a difference. Things that just made the vacation work. Something you may see and you may not even be conscious of it in the park, but there's a red tag that they give out to people called stroller is wheelchair.
Yeah.
And you can put it on the strollers. It was part of the accessibility stuff. And that would allow you to take a stroller places where normally they'd be like, no, don't do that. You can't bring a stroller.
Oh, okay.
Because
through
you
the lines.
Through the lines, you can't stay.
Right.
Yeah, just regular strollers, right? And
they just put them all into an area.
So you were allowed to.
And so you could kind of wave that at a cast member, and they would know that to let you through with the stroller because that child really isn't going to amble around very much.
Right.
Which is nice because it's a lot like the Sunflower program that we recently got a tag coming wait, when we were coming back, actually, we got the sunflower pass, and it's kind of an unknown thing. And there, Kim's got the paperwork. Yeah, so it's a lanyard, and but everybody working at the airport knows that the person with the lanyard or somebody in the family, there's special needs or disability, and
a hidden disability.
right, hidden disability. So
this is taking underway more so in America now.
right.
The way that they described it to me, we've never had this at Newark Airport, but Newark Airport has given us a ton of help when Colton was younger. Now we don't need it as much, but when he was younger, we did. I was very worried. But even now, it scares me that he's huge. It only was a couple of years ago he was way lower than me, and now he is this big, and he's like Becky and Mike, Rowan he's a big kid now, and
Yeah,
it's
they get big.
yeah.
They get
he's
big.
still only 14 with autism. You would not know all the time that he has autism. Sometimes he do, sometimes he don't. It depends on his mood at the moment. So
I can't manhandle him anymore.
it worries me that what if something
either.
happens at the airport, like if they say take off your shoes and he freaks out or whatever.
Right.
So it's scary. So but Orlando gave us this, the kind lady told me, go over to the desk and get the hidden disability sunflower lanyard.
Yeah.
This was a printout for it. And they started this in the UK. And it's widely known in the UK that a lanyard with sunflowers tells people, but it's not just in the UK, it's not just in airports, in grocery stores, it's in everywhere, that person may have a hidden disability, and that the workers can be aware of that, so that maybe they don't freak out right away or scream at them Orlando said.
Yeah, and also in security, they're exactly, take everything out of your backpacks and stuff, right? So it helps with that.
He needs an extra direction, a second time without screaming it, and I thought that was great. So I hope that I posted it online, and I hope that it takes more heat here in America, and that people that more airports do it. But but I love that Disney did that, and that's another thing. I never knew that until you guys told us that they have a lanyard for their people to know. I mean, that's why I say that I always say that Disney really does disabilities well, because that alone is great. If you went to Great Adventure or Six Flags or Hershey Park or anywhere else, they're not going to have all of that.
Nope.
Nowhere has all of that. Where
are they still utilizing that, or is that?
Yeah, I still see it. I still see it in the park all the time.
Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, and again, how well marked everything is. Things you would take for granted. So we went to a wedding a few years back up at Lake George in New York, and we had Dan, and Dan was using a wheelchair at that time, and the hotel was tiered down to the water. Right?
It was a 100-year-old hotel, so clearly pre-ADA. But not easy to navigate.
And there was no staff training, so we would say, we need to get down to the reception. Do you know how we would navigate a wheelchair? And they're like, no. And we're going to ask somebody else, and they'd get a manager. So we ended up we spotted one of the kitchen staff who did not speak English pushing a cart. And we said, that's got to be going where we want to go. And we followed him through the hallways to figure out how he was going to get this cart down to where the reception was. And, and then, we'd go down wrong corridors, and then okay, the elevator, but it's up half a flight of stairs. We can't go that way. And so you go to Disney, and everything's well marked, and there's ramps, and there's elevators, and everything's been adapted for you to get from place to place. And, most people wouldn't think about that, but we have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we were,
and it's great that's, I mean, because you want your son to enjoy all the rides and all the things that everyone else wants to enjoy, and they have a right to that. And I mean, it's not just that, but I find, you guys can probably help us out with this, but even the rides, I mean, they get them on the rides. If they're in a wheelchair and they can't walk, they get them on. And that, can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
I can. And actually it's changed a little bit recently. And so I guess the thing I would say to people is, you need to make sure you advocate for yourself. There's plenty of CAS training, but sometimes they don't ask the questions and people don't volunteer. So it's not just about, you see somebody in a wheelchair or someone in a scooter, and maybe there's something wrong with their legs, but it may be more than that. They may be moving slow. They may have spatial awareness or whatever it happens to be. So they've made the queues for the rides more accessible. So in most cases, you can go through, except for the very old rides like Space Mountain, where you'll have to transfer to one of their wheelchairs or things like that. But anything new is certainly built accessible. Although I have a bone to pick with Guardians and all the stairs at the end.
I'm trying to think oh my God, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to keep transferring elevators. Like they just, it's all stairs.
right.
But they made everything accessible, and they've made the new queues wide enough. But what they're trying to do now is they'll split you two different ways. If it's just, hey, I've got a broken leg, or my arms are good, I can hop up and get in, they'll get you up to the main queue, and that's fine. But if you need more time and you specify that, there are ways they can pull you off, and there are other ways to get on. So Toy Story Midway Mania is a good example. So Dan needs time. It's not just he's just going to hop out of the scooter and fly into a ride.
He needs to get up as close as he can, and he needs extra time.
And he may need to even think about it and plan it out. Where am I putting
Mm-hmm.
my hand? Where am I putting my foot? This takes time.
Right, like it's a processing of placement.
Go. We need to get the car off.
Yeah.
No.
Although he's learned, it's taken him a few years, but he can use the regular line at Test Track now. But it took him a few years to figure that out. Like a Test Track used to be quite complicated. There's an elevator that they would take him up and over in a wheelchair, and they would pull a car off, and it took a long time. And now he's learned, as he's gotten older, to navigate that. So if they just bring him up to the regular queue, he can do it. But other rides like Toy Story Midway Mania, they can pull off. They can, take all the time you want. They can pull the door out. They can get him in for things like that. Rock and Roller Coaster is another good one. They send you out to where the people get off the ride, and they have a modified car that they can lift the whole side out. So you don't have to lift your leg to step over. And you can just sort of slide in.
That's great.
So that's another one. So yeah, they've done a lot for that. Some rides are challenging. Space Mountain's a big challenge, and he loves coasters. But it took him years to have the I don't know how to explain it. If you need to stiffen up to ride something, you just stiffen up your muscles, right?
Yeah.
So he was very floppy for years. So my wife would have to put her arm around his neck and hold him.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of core strength for a long time.
Okay.
But now he can. So he loves to do things like Space Mountain and stuff. But he didn't ride Space Mountain until he was probably, I don't know,
12 or 13.
I don't know, maybe even older. I don't know. But it took a while.
Because you brace yourself for certain movements, right? Exactly, and he was really struggling with that.
It hurt. Yeah.
So getting him into some of the older rides is challenging, but wherever they can, they've made it possible for that to happen. And so the thing for us is he can have the same experience as his able-bodied siblings. Right. There's no and at the hotels. Now he doesn't really like pools as he's gotten older, but every pool, if you look, they have a lift. That you can lower somebody into the water if they need it. So everywhere you go, there's something that just levels the playing field.
And the zero entry is becoming
zero entry is another one. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing to me because you guys are dealing with Becky and Mike, David and I are dealing with mental disability. You guys are dealing with both physical and mental, and I know that it's hard even just with mental. So to have both, and that Disney does it the way they do it is great. It's everything should be that way. Everything, and like you said, it's not. It's truly not.
I wanted to talk about the DAS pass, and as well as maybe touch on the pre-registering for the DAS, and I know Becky, you guys got that right before your recent trip. You pre-registered. Jim and Valerie, do you guys utilize the DAS pass? I'd like to maybe if we could all take turns and kind of talk about that and how it helps in pre-registering versus not pre-registering, and so.
Sure. Well, I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation.
That's right. Mike and Becky, do you guys want to talk about like that process? Did you pre-register? How do you feel it works? And I was very open with cast members and guest services at the parks because I think there's a lot of room for improvement still. but I'm happy it's there, you know. So Mike and Becky, you kind of talk on that?
Yeah. So previous years, I mean, we never did pre-register. This is our first year actually being able to pre-register. And
Right.
David, you can also like clarify, like I was nervous about it. I kept putting it on our admin chat. Like, I'm not sure like how this is going to work and if this is
Yeah.
what I should say, but it made me nervous because I felt like I almost needed to be allowed or something to have something that we already had before.
Right.
And prior to having the pre-registration, we would walk up, I would speak to a cast member, I would explain the situation. Then we would bring Rowan in. We never had him stand in the line because you usually have to stand in a line for it.
Yeah,
And,
which is annoying. Yeah.
right. So we would bring him up when they were ready to see him. Not this past time, but the time before that was during COVID, and we had masks, and I had all the masks made, and my mask said like "I love someone with autism." Rowan said I have autism, so it really wasn't like we had to explain much.
Right.
We
Right.
just
Right.
walked up, and I honestly was just saying I would like to renew our DAS. That's what I would say, and they'd say, "Oh, okay," and it really wasn't a whole conversation. So having to pre-register and explain everything and worry about whether or not Rowan is going to sit in front of the computer. Is he
Yeah.
going to
They
know
take
what
a
to
photo.
say? Yeah, like
Right.
are they going to ask him 1,000 questions? I was very nervous about it. And I had heard some horror stories of people who've not had a very good experience with the
Right.
pre-registration. I fortunately did not come across that. It didn't take long either. It was like a lot shorter of a time than I expected
Mhm.
to. A lot of people said it took a long time for them. Um, Once I got on, it was a little bit of a waiting period, but once I got on and I spoke to someone, I don't think I said 5 sentences. I was just saying, yeah, I'm renewing my son's DAS. I know you're not allowed to know diagnoses. However, the best way to explain it is my son has autism and some of his issues are this, and this. And
Right.
I didn't have to say much. She's like, no, say no more, say no more. You're fine.
Yeah.
And that was all I had to say. And I was like, wow, I sweat over nothing. Like,
I know.
but it really was easy to get the registration in my experience. I don't know. I have heard
Right.
that people had issues. So
Yeah. I mean, for me, the worst thing is the time you spend just waiting for a cast member. I mean, I had other issues involved because I was told that we could do it on a certain day. And then once I waited for over an hour, I was told, no, you got to do it tomorrow because your first park day is this date. So there was an issue there with us. But did you find that the pre-registering, to me, like there's a benefit of it because you're getting 2 return times in each park each day of your visit.
right.
But
You want to really quickly just explain to the audience that are not familiar with it what the difference is between pre-registered.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You're right.
Registered and we just went there. So
Right.
normally when you go to the parks, when we would go for like a week, we would go to the first day, we would go to
Guest services
and say, hi, we need to register for our son
disability access.
Disability access pass. And then they would say, okay. They take a picture of him, scan his magic band or whatever, and then scan ours. And then after that, we were able to go each day into the park and then walk up to whatever ride it was that we wanted to go on. We still had to wait, but we didn't have to stay there to wait. So it was almost like a fast pass. They would just say it was Mine Train. We would go up to Mine Train. They would say, okay, come back in an hour and a half. That would go on our app. And then we would walk around, do something else. And then in an hour and a half that we would go through the fast pass line. So just in case people aren't familiar with how it normally works. But now since they changed fast pass and whatever, we were able to, we don't really have it like that. So we're allowed to pre-register. So go ahead, David.
So pre-registering, you could do 30 days in advance of your trip if you're staying on property, right? So what you do is you go online through the Disney website and you can sign up to pre-register, and they tell you that a cast member will be with you soon, and then somebody will come online. It's all through a chat, but the pre-registration process does take a little while online. But once the cast member does come to you, they will, like Becky said, they will talk to you about how they can help your family. They do need to take a picture. So the person that is getting the disability pass in the pre-registration format needs to be present, because they do take a photo of that person, just like they would at guest services on property. But what it does is it gives you 2 return times ahead of your trip. So 2 per park per day. So once you get on your trip and you walk into your first park and walk through the gates and everybody scans in, you can then go on to the My Disney Experience app and also get a 3rd DAS return time. So there are some attractions that do not qualify for the pre-registration. Let's just say Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Or maybe let's use Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, because it's not a virtual queue. So say you're going to Magic Kingdom and your 2 pre-registration advanced, times are Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion. Once you all scan in and you're on your trip at Magic Kingdom, everybody's in through the park, you can then go into the app and you can do a return time for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So now you have 3 return times kind of in your pocket and to navigate and plan your day. Once the 2 pre-registered DAS return times are used, you cannot continue booking through them, but you can use the one that's available to you in the park that day. You book one, you use one, you then book another one, and so on and so on. So it gives you kind of a little bit of assistance to kind of plan out your day and make it a little bit easier. So people always say, do you think it's worth it? I don't know. Becky, do you think it was
Oh yeah,
helpful?
1,000%.
Right? Yeah.
And to like add on to what you're saying, when you book another one too, you don't have to, like, we would go into our park, or the ride that we're using the DAS on, say it's like Toy Story Mania.
Right.
As soon as you scan your band,
Right.
or I should say, as soon as Rowan scans his band, because the person with the disability has to scan first. You can't get on a ride without the person with the disability. So
Right,
even though
that's-
it's
yeah, good point.
registered to all of our fans, it doesn't matter. Rowan had to scan first, and if Rowan doesn't want to go on a ride, then none of us do.
No, right,
At
yeah.
least through using the DAS. But as soon as you get in and you scan your band, you immediately then have the option to go into your app and look what's available for the next closest time that you are, and hit that
Right.
another ride. You don't have to wait until you're finished with the ride to do it again. So that was helpful too, I thought, because sometimes it might only be 40 minutes from there, and by the time you went through the line that you were in and you are on the ride and you got out and you relaxed for a minute, it was time to get to your next one anyway.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So I did find that helpful in that. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, I definitely think it was, I love the new system that you don't have to go back to the ride to get
all through the app.
the return time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
for
through
sure.
the app,
Yeah.
because that was
Very
so,
Right.
helpful.
That was hard.
that was so
Yeah.
hard. I mean, one of us was always running to the next ride to get
Yeah.
a return time, so that, and then run back to where the family was, and then wait for our time, then run back to that ride again. And I just felt like I was running so much when we had to go to
Yeah.
the ride. And
Yeah, there's
now
no
that
reason to
the-
do that to
The
people.
person
yeah.
with the person with the disability had to be there.
Yeah.
So it was like in the past, and it was like, what if somebody has a physical disability, especially, and then they're like running all the way from Little Mermaid to Big Thunder? That's a long way. And then going there to be told come back an hour and a half later is difficult. So yeah.
I've had it where I've done many times. I've gone myself and just gotten return times without Rowan. And
Right.
just say,
Really?
Rowan is on the return time, on a DAS. I'd like the return time for my son, and I didn't have to have him there, but he did have to be there to go on the ride.
Right.
Like, we couldn't get on the ride without him.
Right. The only issue that we ran into this time was that David had a problem at Becky, as you know, when he actually took the day off to register, and something glitched he'll explain it better when he comes back, but something glitched. And by the time he got in, it was a day later. So all of our return times were really late in the day. which didn't work for us because some of them were pointless because some of our days were supposed to be early days, you know what I mean? Or like they were during like dinner time or whatever. So we actually, what we did was when we were in the park, you know, there was nothing we could do and they would not change it. It was the only time that I really saw guest services really, really adamant about, like, because we went to the first park and we were like, this happened, we had a glitch, and all of our return times for our whole trip are like during dinner or later.
Yeah, there were lunch and dinner times.
Would not change it. So all we did was we just went to the ride itself and we just, you know, we have Slinky Dog at 6 o'clock tonight, and we know it's only 2 o'clock, but we can't.
We have dinner at Brown Derby at 5:30.
And 9 times out of 10, they were like, just come on.
So
guest services wouldn't do it, and the blue tent people wouldn't do it.
No.
When you actually went to this is like a little side, you know, like thing. But when you actually went to the ride, the people
they were more helpful, way more helpful at the attraction.
Because they don't have to change anything in your system. All they have to do,
you're just using a ride that you're going to already use, right? So we went to Hollywood Studios the one day, and they were really, I had to say, the guy was kind of rude. We weren't happy with the way that he handled the situation because we were told on the phone a couple times before we got there, they might be able to help you, go speak to somebody. And the way he spoke to us, I just didn't really appreciate that. In Magic Kingdom, they did help us, but then they actually put a note in the system. So when we asked somebody in the park the next day, they're like, no, they already helped you at Magic Kingdom. And they told you, they're not going to help you. So we're like, but again,
yeah, we were a little bit shocked at that.
Like 60 days out.
I was like, yes, it's for our whole trip. And it wasn't
every return time was lunch and dinner. Like, so, but what Kim just said was, which is a good pointer. They were way more helpful at the attraction. It's just, listen, it's on it's in our app. You see it, can we do it now instead of later? And it wasn't even 9 out of 10. It was like 10. It was every time. Yeah, they were just so nice and helpful. So, yeah.
Well, they helped too when you guys had a different return time than we did for Rise of the Resistance, and they let you wait and us come in early to get on.
That was a great thing. Yeah. So we just spoke to the cast members. We're like, listen, we're waiting for some friends that are coming with their son, and we want to all ride together. And they actually, the one cast member, she was like, just wait off to the side here, right before you gone a Smuggler's Run.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was right before you go and you meet what's his face? The animatronic, right? Ohana
Hondo.
Hondo Tanaka, right? And they were great. We sat there for a few minutes and waited, and then we were like, okay, they're here, and they were like, okay, go, like perfect.
Yeah. But they had let us on early because it wasn't our time technically.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it was like,
and we're like, we have people waiting for us in there.
Super convenient. I think dealing with the cast members at the attraction is really your way to go. Yeah. Jim and Valerie, do you guys utilize the DAS?
We do. We've never pre-registered. Honestly, we're a little afraid of it. I mean, I guess
for good reason.
Well,
you guys are going in a couple weeks.
We are. Some of it, I think, I would call it the dark side of disability, right? So as your kid gets older, they're less cute, and people are less. I don't know. They're just less. Airports. Or an example, I can tell you that they were a lot gentler with Dan when he was younger than he is when he was a young adult.
Right.
And a lot less tolerant. I think that there's that transition to young adulthood that makes people a little less tolerant, and Dan doesn't advocate well for himself. On normal, if you know Dan and he knows you, he's friendly and he's very chatty, but then he panics, right? And
when he's in an unfamiliar situation or he doesn't know what's expected of him, he clams up and he looks at one of us.
And then they assume he's nonverbal, and then they treat him like a piece of furniture, and they talk about
it. Yeah.
Which is not great. So
no, it's not, I'm sure.
We're a little afraid of the registration with DS. So generally, and you use the magic word, the renew. So we've been using that. So we're old enough, and Dan's old enough that we predate the DAS to what used to be called the GAC, the Guest Assistance Card.
Right. Yeah.
So we were familiar with that and running from attraction to attraction. And now Dan's in a mobility scooter, but that helps only to a point. So even the sheer amount of concentration he needs to coordinate that exhausts him.
Yeah.
So he does it, and he wants to be independent. He did not like being pushed around in a wheelchair. We did that for a few years because his arms aren't coordinated or strong enough for him to be pushing himself. So then we'd be pushing him around. So he felt like we'd go on vacation, and I stood behind him for a week, and he hated it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He wants his independence.
He would also like tune out. And so
he would just zone out.
He was sort of present, but he wasn't, so there was no self-determination there. He was being pushed from place to place.
So the mobility scooter gives him a degree of independence, and he gets around, and that still exhausts him. Just the concentration. Like you and I driving one of those things wouldn't be nearly as exhausting as it is for him. So
I wouldn't actually want to. Yeah, it's to me, it actually does seem it. Like I think I would be like worried the whole time.
Yeah, so and his reaction time isn't great. So he doesn't want to run somebody over. So he's going slow, but he gets from place to place, and he's doing it independently, and he prefers it. But that means his days are shorter, right? So without the DAS, to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go here, and he doesn't have to go there and then go back and then go back again. We just can't go as long, right? So we'll go get out early, but our day will end early, right? Because he'll just the needle goes to empty. And then it's like, we've actually had, I guess about a year ago, we were having dinner in Topolino's, and Dan said to us, I can't be here. He's like, we need to go. I have to go back to the room now. Right. Like literally, we barely got him out of there. We barely got him back to the room. It's like when he goes down, when he's on empty, he's on empty.
He's totally drained.
We're like, are we going to get back to? We're going to be pushing him. I mean, it was kind of wild. Like he just literally in the middle of dinner just ran out of gas. We had gone too long. We pushed him too far.
Right.
You know. Right.
We saw that with
a good
Colton.
time. And Dan, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And then jump.
Yeah, we always make sure, like, because our first time with Colton, like, you know, like Kim said earlier, first time, and Colton will always correct us. He's like, oh, it's 5 going on 6. But nothing exhausted Colton. You know, the only thing that brought Colton down like a dart to a rhino was a fever. And you were like, oh, my God, he's taking a nap during the day because he has a fever. It's like 102.7. The only time. Disney World wiped him out, mentally drained him, not physically. It mentally exhausted him. Everything in his sensory world was fulfilled. And he's like, go back to the room. And I was like, dude, we got a view of the fireworks. Like, he didn't see the fireworks from our room until the last night before we left from our first trip.
Because he was so sensory
wiped.
Yeah,
he was a
he was so sensory seeking that he was just like somebody lit a firecracker.
Right.
And he woke up at 6 a.m. and the whole day.
Disney's like, oh, you got sensory? Come, let's go. Let's do this.
For us, Disney was the first thing that has ever slowed him down when he was young.
I never saw that before.
We were like this.
Still to this day, it tires him out. I mean,
but at the same time, he had sensory seeking. He also had sensory, the opposite, sensory
avoidant. Yeah,
avoidance. Right. So believe it or not, and he had both. So, it took.
Dan was like that when he was little. For many years, like we couldn't. He could watch fireworks only at a distance.
Yeah,
he couldn't.
Too loud.
Like
it's too much.
We were in the park and he was little and the fireworks are going off and we had to like make way, get him out of here. I mean, it was just meltdown time. He's gotten over that. It took, decade, but back to your DAS thing earlier. So we don't pre-register, but we do use it and we tend to go in person to get it.
Hey, Rowan.
Hi, Rowan.
Hey.
What's going on, buddy?
Thank you, buddy.
Hey.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
We miss you.
Are you almost done with school?
On Thursday, I'm out.
Thursday already?
And then I'm out for summer vacation.
Woo! Party time.
Rowan, what grade are you going into next year?
10th grade.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Big boy.
That's crazy.
It is.
I'll be you this summer.
All right.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. We don't have to talk about it today, okay?
All right, that works. That works.
He's like, what?
Because that works.
That works.
Hey, bring it on.
That works.
I
We'd
love
be heading to
Rowan.
your place tomorrow.
Well,
Or you'd be
he's-
heading to our place tomorrow.
He's
one
so
or the other.
easygoing. You really are, Rowan.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
Bye, bud.
Bye.
You know, it's real quick. It's just, you know, when Jim and Valerie, when we were in Animal Kingdom, like Dan had a smile on his face a lot, and Rowan too, and Colton. It's like, I don't know, man. It's it's like they just appreciate things more. Maybe I don't know. The smile's like there all the time. Like I just saw it like with you guys in Animal Kingdom, Jim and Valerie, and like the way you guys were, and like, you know, we stopped at Satuli Canteen and met up with you guys, and just the way you function as a family. I left there and I said that to Kim. I was like, man, I'm just so impressed, you know. And then again with Rowan and Mike and Becky, and it's different. It's the same as other people, but it's different. And I just have so much more respect for, you know, for you guys and families, you know, that go through that. Because like you said, you know, James, it's like when the kids are young and there's something there, it's different. But as they get older, it's no longer like you said, cute. You know what I mean? You see a little kid do something even typically developing, you go, oh, yeah, cute. When they get older, it's not cute anymore. Yeah.
Well, everybody, you know, I mean, it's easy. I don't know how to say this nicely, but it's easy for people to, of course, say, oh, support autism or support multiple sclerosis or support, especially when it's little kids and wheelchairs, you know, and that's great. But you need a lot more than that. You need true inclusion. You need true acceptance. You need true understanding. And some people, it's not that they don't mean to not have that. It's just that they don't have the experience of it. So it's, and like James said, as they get older, I know like with our son, as he got older and like, he's very loud. He doesn't appear like there's anything wrong. He
talks exceptionally loud.
He had a really bad
So does
mouth
ours.
for a while, where we went through years when he was 7 or 8 and 9, where he just appeared as a completely spoiled, nasty brat. And I would see people staring at us where he was having meltdowns, to the point that I was starting to cry in restaurants. And David had to get up one time and say, my son has autism and you're making my wife cry. Can you please stop staring at us? You know, he's having a hard time. You know, when people are thinking in their minds, like, that kid just needs a smack, you know. And
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah.
Take him to the bathroom and straighten him out. I'm like, that's not how things are done.
It's not how this works.
Number one, and that does the opposite for our situation.
Yes, it will.
Yeah,
All
that's not gonna fix it, right?
It's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
Right.
That's all that does.
Yeah, Mike and I had that conversation. I think that day at the Poly.
Yes.
You know, we were sitting by the pool, and I was raised differently. I'm the youngest out of 5 in an Italian family, and a Swift hand took care of everything. And
exactly,
you can't reason with somebody with a mental disability. The only reasoning is their reasoning, and you need to figure out their reasoning, and you need to make it work with them. So for years, I struggled as a father, you know, as a person with Colton. Yeah, it was really hard. I mean, I had a, I mean, I've shared that before. Yeah. Go ahead, Becky.
I was going to say that brings back to like your point that you were saying, like that you looked and said, like for you to look at us and say, wow, you know, that's awesome the way they deal with Rowan, or you know, any other family. It's when you're the people in the family, it's easy to be like, God, I feel like I'm alone. Like I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if I'm handling this, you know, properly. And to
constantly.
And so to see other families dealing with very similar situations, and whether they deal with the same or differently, it doesn't matter, because you're still like, wow,
we're not alone.
Okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, you either learn something from that family or whatever the situation is you feel less alone seeing other people going through similar situations.
I've drawn strength from that, just being trips
Right.
at Disney and seeing other families,
Yeah.
inclusive families, families that have disabilities and that are going through things and having the experiences that we're having. That's meant a lot to me.
Yeah, and you don't even have to say anything. I think you kind of sometimes just look and you catch eyes with somebody in that family, right? And you give that nod or something, and it's like, I know what you're dealing with, or
Yep,
you're
we're in
dealing.
the same. We're in the same boat. Yep.
Yeah, we and so yeah, I mean, it's just like Kim mentioned earlier. It's exactly why the group and the show exist. I needed an outlet. I had a breakdown at a later stage in life after Colton was a little older, and there was so much going on, and I started seeing a therapist. He's like, you need something for yourself, and there's a passion for Disney, and there's a reason for the group. And I always tell people that. I mean, I used to tell my old co-host that the reason this show exists is because of Colton. That's the reason the group is there and the show is there. And yeah, and it's the big passion for Disney because it does work.
And I think that all of our stories also tell people just anywhere. I mean, so there's people with neurotypical children that are struggling in Disney or wherever else, and it's like, I think the bottom line is just keep spreading inclusion, keep spreading awareness.
Be
the
kind.
reason why I love to have this show, and we should have this show at least once every 6 months, is because it shows however many people watch tonight, 6 people, 8 people, but it tells our stories and it tells our kids' stories, and it sometimes people just don't get it, and if they don't get it because they haven't experienced it. So
well, and I didn't get it in the beginning,
Right.
like before having Rowan.
Right.
I mean, my oldest son is 20. He had ADHD. We just fell off our counter. He had ADHD, just all by itself. And it was tough because it was severe ADHD, and I got the looks and I got all that. But even having that, going through that I learned what I learned there. But then when I had Rowan, it was like a different type of disability, different type of issue. And I found myself being a little upset with myself prior to having kids, because I was one of those that stared and judged and thought, oh God, what's wrong with that child? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that I don't have, I've been going through what I'm going through. I just look at people, and I don't care if their child is neurotypical or not. I'm just like, I feel you, mama. Like I'm there for you. You know what I mean? Like
if you're having a tough day,
yeah.
And that's why we want to do an episode titled "Everyone Argues at Disney."
Yeah,
because you've seen, right?
That's a whole nother thing, and
it's very funny. I mean, we've had some really good arguments to the point where we were in Magic Kingdom at guest services, and Colton's like, my parents are going to get divorced because of me. I mean, he was having a meltdown, and the cast member looks at him and goes, "You're in a safe place, Colton." And I was like, nobody's in a safe place right now. Like, I was like, you're not even in a safe. I was that irate. Like, yeah, I totally I had a meltdown.
You already have a problem with one of the guys.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like, it's okay, Colton. You're in a really comfortable. I'm like, nobody should be.
Oh my God, we come across like the guys, like, but I mean, and another thing also that's important is just like, don't judge and how do I say it? What was my point?
Be humble, be respectful, be kind.
Well,
it's
like,
changed me.
Like some people, we all do it, like, oh, I've heard it a zillion times. People say things like, I saw this lady in a scooter, and then all of a sudden she just jumped out of her scooter and went on the ride. Well, you don't know why she's in the scooter. It doesn't mean if she's in the scooter that she can't walk or he can't walk. So,
or they have rheumatoid arthritis,
or business. Right. Maybe they can't go the whole day. Like you just heard.
Just because you can walk doesn't mean you can walk 10 miles of Disney.
Right.
And how much it takes out of him just
it drains him, right?
The scooter, mentally. So, like, you don't know what that person's thing is. And I hear people say that a lot, specifically about scooters. And it's like, I was one of those people too. Like, don't get my ankle with your scooter, and I've learned, like, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
You don't know why they're in that scooter. There's a zillion reasons why they're able to possibly jump out of the scooter and do something, you know, and mind your business, be kind.
Be respectful,
Kind
try to
and humble, and
try to help people. I mean, I think we all can say we're changed, as a person now. I'm way more humble. Two things that have changed me most of my life: Kim, because she's very kind, and Colton, because now I'm more understanding. But I'm not just more understanding to mental disabilities. I'm more understanding to a lot of situations. I'm just more understanding in general in life's events and people and anyone who's different and who is judged. So when we go to Disney, I make it a point that every cast member gets acknowledged, and every cast member gets a good morning, whatever, a happy Easter, thank you very much, because they're dealing with it and they're helping you. But then there's people around that are dealing with much worse.
Definitely.
You never know.
We're talking about this from like a parent point of view, but I'm sure Jim and Valerie, you probably could attest to this, and I know that you guys can with Colton, that they're not unaware of things that people say or hear. They hear things and understand things, and it bothers Rowan.
Yeah.
It's
one of the reasons we stopped using Disney transportation, the buses. Right. Actually, we did it a lot when Dan was young, but Dan became aware. And did not like being the center of attention and the looks and the people whispering that he would get loaded onto the buses ahead of people. And because I can make that happen for him, the fact that now we live in North Carolina and we can drive down.
You're closer.
We have our car with us. So he's okay with monorail, Skyliner, but really he doesn't want to take the buses anymore.
The bus, right?
He feels the eyes, he hears the people.
Just the pressure of people waiting, right?
Because I've seen it myself. God forbid they have to load somebody on, and I've seen the huffs and the puffs, and it's like
the grumbling
from adults. Not kids. From adults.
No, not kids. It's never kids.
No, it's adults.
No, it is adults.
And the thing that drives me crazy is they're fully capable to help these people get on the buses or off of the buses. Right. And they just sit and snicker instead. Like we've seen it in our last trip, and we helped people get on and off the bus that needed our assistance.
Even with just like regular strollers.
Even if there's enough cast members there, there's 60 people they can fit on those buses.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody just walked on the bus like it was no big deal. Where me, Rowan, and Beck tried to help them get on the bus and tried to assist at least the cast in any way they could. I mean, they've got a hard enough day just trying to get through, everybody getting on and off the bus or whatever they do. Nobody has it really easy there, I'm sure.
No, I mean, I've said it to Colton several times because, the bus will pull up, and the thing that bothers him the most is the air brakes on the bus, right? So when it goes up and comes down, he always, and I'm like, Kim and I will be like, Colton, bus, cover your ears, and he'll cover. But, then the door will open, and he'll go to get it on. I'm like, nope, you're waiting because there's somebody here that's online in a scooter or a wheelchair that's going on before you. And so I think it's also a lesson, like, there's conversations with your kids are okay because those kids will soon be adults, and that's the difference between a kind adult and a not so kind adult.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of Rowan. I mean, obviously I'm biased too, but like he has learned at 14 years old, and it probably is because he knows of all, he hears all the whispering and the talk and the whispering, but like he doesn't even, I had told you guys a little story about my son has Tourette's as well. And one of his tics is that he does like a very loud, like clearing of the throat, kind of like a coughing. And we were watching the fireworks, and this British couple were in front of us. And the gentleman Rowan was ticking because he was very anxious and excited for the fireworks.
Stimulated, yeah.
Yeah. And the gentleman looked back and said, something, I don't remember. It was something along the lines of like, well, that'll clear out of a place real quick or something like that. And I was like, I didn't catch what he said.
I didn't either. And I was standing right next to him.
He looked at Rowan and he goes, he says, yeah. And he just kind of like let it go. And I was like, what did he say to you? And he's like, I don't really know. But he didn't make a big deal out of it. He was just like, where other kids might have been like, you know what he said to me? You know, and Rowan was just like,
Right.
"No, I don't know. He just let it go. And then later on, he said something again about asking us if we'd like to go in front of him. And we were like, no, he had a 5-year-old little girl. If we would have been in front of him, I mean, Rowan's like almost 6 foot tall. Mike's tall.
Right.
I'm not super short. And I was like, we'd be in front of your 5-year-old. You want us to go in front of her? You know, but I was like, no, we're fine where we are. And he's like, I just don't want to get ill. And I was like,
Yeah, he
ill?
thought he was
He's not
sick,
sick.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, oh, my son's not sick. He has Tourette's. And then he felt terrible. And
Right.
it took everything for me not to be like, well, you should, because you judged what you didn't know.
You're like,
You
so
know
how
what
would I
mean?
punch you in the stomach now? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it would have
been there
been a different conversation
Yeah.
if I would have knew what he said the first time. he
Right,
said
right,
it.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it was. I think it was like 2 minutes later they had gone somewhere else, and it just worked out.
Yeah.
You know,
But he was like,
better.
oh, I feel terrible.
Yeah,
You should
Yeah,
go
it
stand in the
happens.
corner.
Yeah.
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 We both just,
Stand in
yeah,
the
we
corner.
understand it happens, but it took everything, like bite my tongue as much to be like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
I don't
Disney.
know. I mean, I've gotten less defensive in situations, but I'm still can get defensive about it. Yeah, you know, because it does sometimes really get to you, some things that happen, or if somebody's watching or staring, or like we know Colton talks very loud.
Mhm.
He's
Well,
extremely loud, and we
You know,
always are like,
to everybody, like on the
Yeah.
keep
bus.
it down.
Like
Yeah.
he's gotten this last year, he's gotten more understanding that he can't like just like talk to strangers like they're part of our family. But like for a couple of years, from like the ages of like 9 through like 12, we would get on the bus and he would literally like sit next to an entire family and be like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm Colton. How old are you? What year were you born?
Rowan does that
Rowan
all the
too.
time.
I
All
love
the
that.
time.
That's awesome.
See, it's just like a grill
Yeah.
of questions. Yeah.
And
But they're not
David
afraid
and
to
I,
say
of course,
things.
David and I would say like, Cole, and you know, we kind of look at them and smile and be like, I'm sorry, you know, Colton, come stay by us, you know, give them some space. And we worked him through it. But like a lot of times, neurotypical children don't know how to act. They're less social than
They're less social. Right.
autistic
Yeah,
kids.
right.
They're staring at him like with this face, you
Yeah.
know, like,
Mhm.
I
and
don't know what to
some
say,
of
and it's like just talk.
some were nice
Yeah.
and some weren't. Some were really snotty, and it's you know I learned to just be like, all right, calm down.
Wasn't there like on this trip, weren't there like twins or something? And it was like something came up like a birthday or something, and he's like, how is that? Like he was doing the math, and Colton's really good at math, and he's like, there was some situation on a bus where he was, but you could see it like in their faces, and you're not going to get it over on him with numbers. And he was like, how are they like something? I'm trying to remember the situation, but not everybody is going to take, not everyone's going to take it that way. He's just super talkative. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Rowan's the same way. I don't remember when this was, 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe more. He went on a bike ride around the neighborhood, and we're like, where did he go? We haven't seen him for like hours.
He's like, you.
No,
it was not that.
he just jumped in with a family that was having a party
Oh yeah.
up on top of the hill around our neighborhood, and just like he was like the center of the party. He was having a great time.
We're like walking around
I'm
the
like-
neighborhood looking for him. We're
Yeah.
like,
He's crushing cans on his head.
doing keg stands,
Yeah,
playing lawn
exactly.
darts, whatever.
Woohoo!
I was like, I was like, what are you doing?
yeah.
And, you know, but he was like, they were nice to me, so I just jumped in and had a good time.
That says a lot though, because they were nice to him and they talked to him. Like,
Right.
you know, I think the stigma too, like with us, I mean, you know, when it comes to like autism, people are always like, I brought Colton to work not that long ago for Bring Your Kid to Work Day. And everybody's like, oh, he's really talkative and loving and he's hugging you all the time. And it's like, I think the perception of like autism is
nonverbal.
they just
doesn't
sit around, they're
make eye
nonverbal and they
contact,
have no
don't talk.
emotion at all. Right. Colton didn't shut up and he kept hugging
Mhm.
me and he kept saying he loved me and he was talking. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So Well, we have to unfortunately end. We probably could have a whole nother show once again on this. So maybe we should plan one in the next month. Like we'll try to get together. Because we didn't even get into like tips and things, more magical stories. So this happened. I knew this show was going to be like this, like where we could talk longer.
The
So,
hour always goes by so quick.
yeah, we're now in 15 and I have to go to the bathroom and is here. So we are going to say goodnight.
Just too much information.
Sorry. I do. But maybe we could we'll be honest about everything else. I have to tinkle.
No, that's way too much information. We can be honest about all this stuff. Yeah, geez, what's going on there? Yeah, so listen, we are now that's Disney's Disney Night Live, and we're every Saturday at 8 p.m. and we also go out as a podcast. So if you're listening to us as an audio recording at some point down the road, or you're hearing us on D Magic World, our sponsor, dmagicworld.com, we really love your engagement. We appreciate how much to any of your time that you give to us. So I think we should have another show, like, a little ways down the road and kind of get into different topics, and maybe we can make it like a segment, like different topics of visiting Disney World with special needs and disabilities. And I just really want to say thank you to Mike and Becky and Jim and Valerie for joining us, and also letting us spend time with your families at Disney World.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
we loved it. We were honored.
Yeah,
great. Again, it was fun. It was so fun with both of you guys.
Mike and Becky, Jim and Valerie are really knowledgeable in DVC, by the way. So Mike and Becky and Roman, welcome home. Recent new members to DVC, but I'm gonna do it, Jim and Valerie. I'm sorry, but you're super knowledgeable on DVC. So if they have questions,
my wife's the expert.
Yeah, seriously. Like if you're in a DVC like Facebook group or something, she's in it. She's gonna answer the question from the post.
Yeah, pretty much.
Definitely. Yeah.
Good night, Katie.
Yeah. Hey, Katie. Good night, Lily. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. We love you guys. We seriously do appreciate your time.
Thanks for having
you
us.
guys don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
thank you. I'm gonna play the outro and we'll be right back. But I'm gonna mute us out and let me find the outro. Here it is.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Everybody have a great week. Full in.